his mission.
But really, it wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing initially.
Well, he was, though, because you have Israelites who are in a Gentile state of mind also. Paul, don't forget, Paul was raised a son of a Pharisee who understood the law. So his original thing was to go there and teach the gospel and let them know that, listen, Christ is Lord. And that was an amazing miracle amongst them because they remember him as a murderer of the church. You understand? But since they started ignoring it, he went into his original sanction. He went and started teaching the Gentiles. Now you have Gentiles, Israelites who are in a Gentile state of mind, and Israelites, all these different factions in one church. So obviously people is going to grasp or cleave to their own. So if you have a Gentile in the church, of course a Gentile is going to link in with another Gentile based on the fact of, the familiarity of it. You understand? And if you have people that are from the same neighborhood, they're going to link in with the people of their neighborhood. So this is what's going on in the church. You have the Gentiles now, seeing that the Israelites rejected Christ. They're now making an uproar in the church saying, it's not about you people anymore. It's about us now. You all had your chance in the old covenant. You broke that chance. So y'all don't have anything. We're the people now. So Paul had to write a letter to deal with this argument in Corinthians. And we're going to go into it. See, another thing, it's hard to understand Paul unless you first know the circumstances in which he had to write the letters. That's why Paul's letters are confusing to people, because they don't understand the circumstances. Who he's writing the letter to, why the letter is being written. Right? Read the first verse again.
Romans chapter 11 verse 1. I say then, hath the Most High cast away his people?
Have the Most High cast away its people? That's a question. Because we're taught in the churches today that the Israelites are done away with. And now he have a new people called spiritual Israelites. Read.
God forbid.
That means no. Read.
For I also am an Israelite, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. The Most High hath not cast away his people which he foreknew.
So the Most High did not cast away his people which he foreknew in the Old Testament. He did not cast them away. Now, if you go into any religious institutions today, they'll tell you Israelites just fell off the face of the earth and no one can identify them. That's preposterous. That's ridiculous. That is totally ridiculous. How is it you can identify everything in the earth with all this spiritual understanding and you can't tell me who the people are written of in the Bible at all? Like, that's taboo to even talk about. You know exactly who these people are. Right? Go down to 11th verse and let's deal with this argument.
Verse 11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall?
That means, have Israel stumbled to the point where they'll never stand again as a people? The topic here in the first verse is whether or not Israel is done away with. Have the Israelites stumbled that they should fall? Read.
God forbid.
No. So Paul is letting the Gentiles and everyone know in the church that Israel will not stay in this state forever. You got another Bible, so I'll give you that. Another one? Okay. Read.
But rather, through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles.
Rather, through their fall, through the Israelites' fall, what happened?
Salvation is come unto the Gentiles.
Salvation came to the Gentiles to do what?
For to provoke them to jealousy.
To provoke Israel to jealousy. So through Israel's fall, the Gentiles have everything you see in the earth today. What do that shows? That shows that they are in their salvation. Their salvation began when we fell. See, we think that salvation is Christ coming to save the earth and bring people into some one tranquility and one peace. But salvation, according to the scriptures, is different than that. Salvation is rulership and power. That's what salvation is. By our fall, the nations have become rich. I'm going to show you that in the same verse. That's what Paul is saying. Now, the problem is they want the salvation they received on this side and Israel's salvation too. That's the conflict. That's the conflict. They don't understand that in the earth there's a changing of powers. And salvation go from one empire to the next. But yet Abraham's salvation through Christ have not been fulfilled. At one point the Egyptians had their salvation and power. You had the Persians had their salvation and power. The Greeks had their salvation and power. The Romans had their salvation and power. All these empires ruled in the earth. But yet the children of Israel, salvation have not been fulfilled. Now the Israel time is coming around. Everybody want to run into this salvation. But yet didn't want Israel to play an equal part in theirs. Right? So stick with me here. Now they will play a part. There's no doubt about that. But we're going to get the record straight. Because they're misconstruing what salvation is. It says, because Israel falls, salvation have come to the Gentiles to provoke Israel to jealousy. So now that the other nations have their salvation, Israel have become jealous.
That's true. That works with me.
Now, this salvation can't be the salvation Christ is bringing because there's no jealousy in Christ's salvation. You understand? Israel wished they had the power, the land mass, the wealth of the other nations. You follow me here? Read.
Verse 12. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world.
That's how we know what salvation was.
That's right there.
If the fall of Israel became the riches of the world, that was their salvation. When we fell, they received our riches. All that gold that you read of in the Old Testament to build Solomon's temple, that's the gold that's being resourced all around the earth today. That gold belonged to a people. If we just had the gold in Solomon's temple, our captivity would be finished altogether when it comes to riches and glory. Think about this. So these were the battles, these religious battles between the Arabs and the Christians, so-called, supposed to be about spirituality. No, it was about wealth and power. Who would take Solomon's temple? Why? They read the scriptures. They knew where all the gold was. The greatest golds of Ophir and the greatest gold in the earth was built in this temple. They was fighting for the wealth of the earth. So when we fell, automatically, by default, they could fight over what belonged to us. The richest land and all the gold and resources that would fuel the world.
They teach us to wait for heaven.
Yeah, and they teach us that our heaven happens when we die and float up and be with God.
I'm a cloud.
Exactly. Right? Read on.
Verse 12. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world.
If the fall of them be the riches of the world, which means the whole earth got rich. How rich were we? That through our fall, now we understand why the other nations don't want us to come back into any type of power or understanding. When you start understanding you are a nation, riches come with that. Power come with that. This will destroy their whole economy in the earth.
Is it all right?
Huh?
Is it all right?
Go ahead.
So there's something called, is it the Comtel program? To prevent Comtel program to prevent the rise of the Black Messiah.
Yeah.
So each time a leader would arise, like you triggered
Yes.
when you said it's only when it's a nation. So when somebody would rise up like
Yeah.
the next and all these different people,
They don't mind,
together.
exactly. They don't mind you rising as a religious leader as long as you're under one of the controlled religions. They'll give you personal wealth to continue to destroy your people. You understand? But they will not give you nation wealth. They will not give you nation wealth in which you can run it as a society and a body alone, independent from government. You would never receive that. Why? Because if they do that, then that takes the wealth from the whole earth. Because if we claim we're Israel, the riches in Solomon Temple belongs to us. The riches, you understand? All the riches in the Middle East belongs to us then. So they could never, they'd rather us stake claim to Africa and say we're Hamites than Israelites. Because Solomon Temple was not in Africa. So listen, go claim the Pygmy tribe. Go claim some other tribe, but you better not claim Israel. Why? Because riches come with that. And that's why the Jewish people cleave to the... Exactly.
Trying to plug themselves in there.
Exactly. It was about the riches. It was about the riches. Bless you, bless you. The riches, power, and wealth. Bless you. If y'all need some extra seats, y'all can grab them from next door, okay? Right? Read.
Verse 12. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world.
The Bible says if the fall of Israel be the riches of the world. Now we're talking about salvation here. Read.
And the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles.
And the diminishing of Israel, the more Israel became diminished, the greater the Gentiles became, or the more rich the nations became. That's what Paul is teaching here. Read.
How much more their fullness?
How much more when Israel come back to their fullness? If the Most High had made the whole earth rich based on Israel's fall, how much more will Israel receive when they are established as a nation? Read on.
Verse 13. For I speak to you Gentiles, and as much as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify my office.
He said, I speak to you Gentiles, and as much as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. So when you magnify something, you're making it bigger than it is. So you're putting a magnifying glass on this, and you're actually magnifying it. So he's not just dealing with regular Gentiles. He's magnifying his office to the natural Gentiles too. This is who he's speaking to here. Right? Bless you, brother. Shalom. Read on.
Verse 14. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them that are my flesh.
So he told the Gentiles in the churches that he did this to provoke to emulation those which are his own flesh. You had an argument going on in the church. You had the Israelites who were staking claim to the truth and understanding of Christ that was trying to attack the Gentiles, and Paul had to write letters against that about trying to put them under bonds. Then you had the Gentiles sometimes getting out of hand saying that you people are done away with. It's not about you no more. It's about us. We're in the church. So Paul had to write a letter about that too. To keep everything temperate, in order. Right? Read that last part again.
If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are of my flesh.
So Paul did this to provoke Israelites, fleshly Israelites, to provoke them to come back to the Most High. So since the Israelites didn't want to follow, he started teaching the Gentiles to provoke his people to want what the Gentiles were receiving. So the Most High gave the Gentiles all the riches and all the greatness of this earth, knowing that rulers desire rulership. People of power desires power. So if this was in your lineage, you would look at all the riches of the earth and say, you know what? Something is wrong here. I need to go back to the Father who at one point gave my parents and my foreparents all these things. How you feel when you can't pay